session. This is a work session for the Poquoson City Council and a joint session with our friends from Virginia Department of Transportation, or as we affectionately love them as VDOT.
That's fine.
Okay?
Yeah.
But yes, and this is an update from y'all's perspective on the path ahead for With Creek Road and adjustments and those sorts of things. So Randy, is there anything that you'd like to kick this off with?
No, I think you did a perfect job of it. Ellen, our city engineer, may want to. Thank you. Ellen may want to introduce the folks that are here.
Yes, tonight we have to my left Ian Johnston, who is with the designer, who's part of the design team. He's with Clark Nixon, and then we have VDOT staff members here. I'm thinking this, I didn't get a chance to meet you, but Mr. Canetta, this is Ken McKenna from VDOT. To his left is Bruce Duvall, and Bruce has been here talking about this project on several occasions, has been to council. And finally, we have Kenny Wynn, who's the VDOT project manager on this, With Creek Road widening.
Okay. So how would you like to proceed?
Absolutely. Well, with that, I'll let Kenny start us out as the project manager and give us an overview, and then we'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay.
Okay, so kind of as Bruce mentioned, we're just going to walk through some of the project specifics and then get into kind of what we're doing to keep the thing moving forward. So as you're all aware, this is the With Creek Road improvement project. So this slide kind of introduces the schedule and the funding and kind of where we're at. So all of the schedule stuff was based on an advertisement date of September 10th, 2019. As a result of kind of these funding issues that we're working to address, that's more than likely going to be delayed for some amount of time, a few months, to address the issues, come up with some solutions, and implement them into the plans. So with that kind of in thought, you can kind of push back each of these dates just a few months, and that will allow us to keep the project rolling. So the original notice to proceed would have been late 2019, early 2020. Early 2020 is kind of where we're looking more so now. The project duration is currently estimated at about 2.5 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. We're developing an independent construction time duration report right now. Should have that in a couple weeks, which will outline our new CTDR, construction time duration report, based on the changes that we're implementing. As far as funding is concerned, our current estimate is about a little over $53 million. Our current funding is at about $49.6 million. We just obtained, or Hampton just obtained, additional funding through the MPO at about $1.4 million. And that leaves us with a funding shortfall of about $1.5 million. So that $1.5 million is really where we're focused now. How can we bridge that gap and bring the project back within a budget that we can fund and construct? So moving forward, these are some of the changes that we've already implemented in order to reduce the budget into what the numbers are that I've shown you so far. So I'm going to go ahead and let Ian kind of describe these couple of changes and the amount of money that we've been able to save based on them.
Okay, so this is a view, actually north is to the right of the screen, so we're looking up With Creek Road. The new bridge where we're placing adjacent to the existing causeway, that's shown in yellow and labeled accordingly. One of the adjustments that we've looked at is removing the right turn lane coming off of Carey's Chapel Road, so that's the more orangish shape. That right turn lane is currently set to be pile supported, and it'll be behind a steel sheet wall. And one of the things we've looked at in trying to save money is taking that out, and that's about a $700,000 savings to the project. Now, one of the questions that's come up is, well, if we take out that turn lane, what does that do to the anticipated intersection operations and capacity? We've analyzed that. Whenever you build a new intersection, new project, typically what you want to do is set right turn lanes, get it set up for future growth. But in this case, we've analyzed and believe that we could take that out and the intersection would operate satisfactorily. You've got just a few vehicles that make a left turn there in the morning coming off of Carey's Chapel to northbound With Creek Road. So when you've got so few vehicles making that left turn, that doesn't materially impact the intersection level of service. So that's taking out the turn lane. Any questions as it relates to that? Okay.
So that was one of the things that we've already more or less implemented and realized the cost savings from. The next piece is eliminating lighting along the corridor. That saves us about $100,000 in bid items that would be in the contract and about another $100,000 through Dominion Virginia Power to install the lighting. So those are the two items really that we've eliminated and realized the cost benefits of as of today. And we can talk about the detour on Carey's Chapel as well. I know that's kind of a concern because we're going to have to close Carey's Chapel for some amount of...
Can I go back a second?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you started by saying you were approximately 1.5 million short. So you've identified with the lights 800,000. What are your next targets to look at?
Okay, so the 1.5 million is already including removing these items. So therefore, we have to get 1.5 million moving forward. The next thing that we're looking at is removing the reversible lane system. And that would leave us with a 3-lane roadway with a 2-way center left turn lane, more or less permanently until a future project could come in and install the reversible system. Now that's something that we're investigating and will require some level of coordination with FHWA to ensure that they buy off on it through the NEPA process and make sure that they're in agreement with making that change. And that'll require further analysis as far as the traffic is concerned. We don't want to push a project that doesn't achieve the goal of the original intent of the project, which is to relieve congestion and provide some benefit.
So that would save that alone would save 1.5 million?
Yes, sir. That would cover the entire cost of the remaining deficit.
Okay. And there would be no, and that was kind of the one question I had on the right turn lane. So there'd actually be no infrastructure down. It would be, let's say that later on we said we needed that right turn lane, not saying that we do. But let's say that we did, that later on that was because of growth in York County coming to Langley or something like that, that would have to start from square one, which is driving Pyle.
So what we would anticipate doing there, we're taking out the turn lane, is we're still going to have sheet piles that come around and tie in, just not as far down Carey's Chapel. So at a future date, there'd be a few modifications you'd have to make at the bridge abutment at that location, but it could certainly be done in future.
Okay. So in other words, we're trying to put the infrastructure. The same thing as you consider the lights, would you have the power and those sorts of things within the ground, or what would you do there, or just completely remove those?
So the power for the future lighting comes out, that would come off of the existing Dominion, or the relocated Dominion power feeds that are out there. So it wouldn't be too difficult to light it in future.
Okay. If, because I don't, maybe I'm gauging wrong. I don't think you're going to get a lot of pushback on removing the directional signage from the city of Poquoson. In fact, that was along the lines of what we had originally had intended. And I'll let all the rest of council speak for themselves. But if somehow through that savings you could put the lighting back in, we would really appreciate that, because that's a safety, actually that's something that we have today that we would not have in the future. And lighting obviously when we've got sidewalk complex, bike paths, and we're encouraging that. The one comment I would have is if there's any way to eke that savings up a little bit on the directional lighting and reattain the corridor lighting, which are the poles, I'm assuming I'm talking correctly.
Yep.
This is the lights on the poles. So if we could somehow get those re-added to the project, that would be a huge win for this side of the table. Okay.
You said corridor lighting. Would you define exactly corridor? Are you talking about from the bridge all the way into town or where?
Along the length of the
The whole
project,
length of it?
yes, yes, sir.
With no street lights? I don't like
Now,
that.
Council, did I talk out of turn? I mean, has anybody really got a different view of the 2 lanes out in the morning, 2 lanes in the evening, that sort of stuff? Okay, I just want to make sure I would, All right,
Do you want me to go over the detour?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the primary features or perhaps concerns from a stakeholder perspective for the citizens is we're planning to close down Carey's Chapel Road. Right now, we anticipate, and this will be determined, as Kenny brought up the contract time determination report, the final schedule or length of closure still has to be determined, but we're figuring about 90 days. And the reason Carey's Chapel has to be closed down for that period is we're raising Carey's Chapel Road up to meet the new bridge elevation. So the contractor has to get in there and excavate out. And they also have some utility work in there, a water line that has to be offset. So the contractor's going to need the entire width of Carey's Chapel to do that work. So that closure is going to be about like I said, we're ballparking about 90 days at this point.
and I think we're prepared for that.
Let me address that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Members of council, just to update you, Mr. Callis and I have been working with the owner both of Vector on the corner, who is also the owner of Surf's Up. And while the project would maintain access in some form to both properties, during the closure period, that access would only come from the York County side. So what we're working towards, and we will bring this to you for your decision, we're timing it so that it's about the time that the project is ready to go to award, which would give us substantial lead time on our end since we're not the first phase of construction. But essentially what we're talking about is an emergency access easement that would allow us the ability to essentially connect the Vector parking lot with the Surf's Up parking lot. And what the public would get out of that partnership is in times of designated emergency, if we ever need to bypass around that intersection for any reason it's down, car accident, major storm event while we're waiting for this project to come about, we would have the ability to do that and to route traffic through that, which is one of your comprehensive plan goals, is to try to solve those problems when we can. And what they would get out of it is a road connection that they could utilize during this detour period so that you would be able to access the Surf's Up business during the time of construction when it's not otherwise in use for a designated emergency.
Right.
From With Creek Road.
Okay, so we've got that in our plan, and I guess the only thing we would like VDOT to understand is that that's in our plan. And whatever laydown areas, whatever equipment storage areas are necessary, that's not the place. Okay?
And York County aware of this? It's their road, right?
They are.
And they know, they're aware.
They are aware that
They're
a
aware.
portion, but the portion of the road that will be closed is in Poquoson.
Yes.
I don't think it goes back to the,
Oh, so the
it
whole-
stops
the whole
about
road
the
is not gonna
time,
be closed.
just the section
Okay.
from the driveway, approximate section from the driveway of Surf's Up to the intersection itself.
Okay.
So hold on, I don't want any misconceptions. The whole road's going to be closed.
From the driveway at
from the
Surf's Up
driveway
to the intersection.
within the city of Poquoson. So yes, It does impact York County. We have talked to York County as well. And I don't know if y'all have had any conversations with York County, but we'll continue to carry that message to them.
So it's just a few, what, couple hundred feet, or 300 feet?
Yes,
Whatever it
yes.
is.
Something like
It's
that.
not closing the whole Carey's Chapel from the entrance to the other side, just, and there's no homes, I think, in that area that I'm aware of. So.
Correct.
Yeah, not in the vicinity of the road improvement, certainly on up the way.
Yes.
And as part of the project, we have full detour signing planned, and I think it'll just take maybe, it should be signed very well for them to relocate around, and anyone who turns down there is they'll figure it out pretty quick.
Well, they'll wish that they had opened that road that we asked them to.
Or that. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to go?
Oh, yeah, so this is the detour route, and so the plan is, this is the way we would sign it, is the folks on Carey's Chapel Road who live in the neighborhoods adjacent will travel north up Carey's Chapel and then make a right onto Victory and then turn down With Creek Road. Of course, they have the option as well to make a left down Victory and then cut down Armstead, I think it is, or Commander Shepherd. So they'll be. This is, like I said, this will be the signed route, but they also have the option to take the other way around.
So that's all we have for the update. Really kind of where we're focusing now is vetting out removing the reversible system. If that's something that we can accomplish, then it'll bring the project back within budget pretty much by itself. So
Do you need us to do anything?
I don't believe so at this time,
I
no.
mean, do you need us to say, yes, we're in support of that?
I don't think we do it this time,
Okay.
sir. I think what we have to do behind the scenes is go ahead and do an operational analysis to validate that the traffic is not in a worse condition.
Okay.
And to help take that information to FHWA to get their buy-in. I think we'll keep you informed as we go along the way with that process. We're just really now starting that process right now.
Okay.
But that would be the major hurdle for us to overcome, is getting their support and buy-in on that removal.
The one thing, and I appreciated if you could go back to that slide where you just showed the road configuration around Carey's Chapel. Okay, and can you just walk, because one of the main things there that we suffer from sometimes is communication about where the new bridge is going to be. And this sort of shows it, and what the transportation is going to be like on the existing causeway during that construction. Is there a way to kind of address that for our citizens?
Sure. So one thing that's important to note is the plan is to keep 2 lanes of traffic open during the entirety of construction. Now, there'll be times where we get lane closures during the day outside of the peak periods, the morning and afternoon peaks, there'll be closures, but we're going to maintain 2 lanes of traffic at all times. So in the initial stages of the project, traffic will continue to run on existing With Creek Road while we build the improvements to the outside. Looking at this picture here, so in Hampton, to the, where the bridge is, and to the south, okay, thanks. So through here and all the way down in, by NASA Langley, the majority of the improvements in the initial stages will be to the west, okay? The new bridge is going to be constructed adjacent to the existing causeway. Over here, the red building, this is the real estate office. What you're going to see there is the new road is going to take up a good portion of the green space that's out front there now, because we're shifting the roadway over, building the new bridge while we're maintaining traffic on the existing causeway. Once we get into Poquoson, the construction operations, you'll see, will shift. The first phase of construction, there's going to be construction on the left side, and then once you get beyond that, there'll be construction on the right-hand side, on the west and the east. The initial construction processes, the first thing the contractor is going to need to do is we have a HRSD force main that has to be relocated. And they're doing some betterment work in Hampton, so that there'll be utility work up front, the force main, the water line. Those works will be done, and that, once we get those relocated and out of the way, then the contractor will get in and do the storm drainage. As far as the citizens and the homes along Wythe Creek in Poquoson, they're going to have construction out front of their homes for a fair amount of time. The contractor has to maintain access for them throughout construction. Now, there'll be times where they have to coordinate with those citizens when they're doing the work on their driveway. They may have to make plans to have them use a neighbor's driveway, or the contractor will work that out, as that occurs. But that construction for the driveway should only take a day or two. What else? Did I answer?
I think you did, for the most part, and that's what I wanted everybody to fully grasp, is that what you're building is really outside the existing lane structure. It kind of lines up well for use of the existing road while you're doing the construction. We all know when you build a road, there's going to be some interference works along the way. But it's not like it's going right over top of the other roadway, and there's going to be a loss of continuity.
Well, I do have to, I'm sorry if I cut you off. I do have to note, once we get into Poquoson, it's a balancing act, and what we've tried to do is go right down the middle of the existing property lines. So we are trying to split the widening to both sides of the roadway, but we've got it set up such a way that will maintain 2 lanes of traffic through construction, through that length.
Okay. Randy?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just take advantage of the fact that these folks are here, and hopefully tonight a number of people are watching us on TV. Could you talk, mostly as a reminder to us, but for those that are watching at home, and just talk about the bike and pedestrian accommodations through Poquoson and how it crosses the Causeway area and into Hampton?
Sure. So what we have planned is on the west side of Wythe Creek Road in Poquoson, we have an 8-foot sidewalk. If we look at the slide here, that's represented over in this vicinity. We're installing a new signal at the Carey's Wythe Creek intersection, so we'll have a crosswalk that crosses over to the east side. And then in the post-project, once construction is completed, the bike and ped accommodations will utilize the existing causeway. We're going to convert that to a bike ped, so it's going to be completely off the bridge, and it'll run on the east side, along the east side of the new bridge structure, down on the existing causeway, and it'll stay on the east side all the way into out front of NASA Langley. So that'll be the connection. If you're on a bike, you'll want to, ideally you're going to be on the west side of Wythe Creek and Poquoson, then you'll cross over and take the existing causeway.
And there's a sidewalk feature on the east side
Yes,
as well.
sir. Yeah. So
Right.
we have a 5-foot sidewalk on the east side of the corridor in Poquoson.
Okay. All right. Council, questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Just out of curiosity, we've all seen the utility work that's ongoing now, okay? How close are you to budget and schedule right now with the work that's going?
You have that info, Kenny?
Yeah, so they're ahead of schedule. All utility relocations are expected to complete in October of 2020, but they're pretty far ahead of schedule, which is good. I believe that we've kind of had some sort of open communication with Ellen. I know we've had Bobby Baderi, who's the VDOT contract manager for the utility relocations, providing us updates to let you guys kind of know what's going on. But yeah, we're ahead of schedule, and hopefully we can continue that way. So.
I just have a few questions. I know you guys have to resolve the funding issue, so you don't have a definitive timeline yet, but do you have like a ballpark of, because I know construction's going to start on the Hampton side, a ballpark of when it will hit the Poquoson side, or a ballpark for when Carey Chapel will be closed?
It's a little hard to speculate at this time because we're not sure exactly when we're going to advertisement yet. The closure on Carey Chapel, I would assume, would happen.
The closure on Carey's Chapel is part of the first phase of construction. We have a 3-phase construction process, so if you figure about a 2.5 to 3 year construction schedule, I would expect that closure would occur, probably maybe about the 1 year mark. Can't say for sure because the contractor also, once it's awarded to them, they'll make that final determination as to when that will specifically occur. But I would expect, in the early portion, not right off the bat, but, probably within a year.
And then just for the city, just because I know probably there's citizens out there, when you look at a project estimate of $53 million, the first thing that people are going to think is, well, how much does Poquoson have to pay for that? So I think it's important to know how little of that is coming out of our pocket.
I have that answer. Our share, Councilman Andrews, is $60,266. So I told you before the meeting I thought it was around 60. I was $266 more than I remembered.
Okay, and anybody else? Question?
Well,
Go ahead.
1 second, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to try to emphasize what the mayor said earlier, about the reversible lanes. That if I've heard one issue with the project, it's that concept. People aren't very, they're not tickled to death about the idea of the reversible lane, so I don't think you're hurting anybody's feelings nixing that. Now, one question I did, what's the issue with making that center lane a turn lane, a center turn lane, rather than having to decide, well, we'll just do 2 out and 1 in, or reversible? What is the issue there?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
It'll be an outward turn lane, but it'll be 2 outward lanes and 1 incoming lane into the city, if I understood you right.
The way the reversible system is set up is that would be, you'd have 2 lanes southbound in the morning, and then it would be two northbound in the afternoon, because that's the way, it's about a 70-30 split with the traffic. Sorry. It's about a 70-30 split for the traffic that comes south versus north in the morning and reverse in the afternoon. Switching to the 2-way left, where you have the center turn lane, that would be through the length of the project. And that's just a situation where vehicles can come in and make lefts. You may get a situation where you have 2 cars approaching each other. You just have to be on the lookout for that and then make the lefts out of the center turn lane.
So to be clear, it's still going to be a 3-lane improvement, and it's just going to have a center turn lane where all lefts get you out of the flow of traffic.
Yes.
Once you get through the approval process and make sure the project still does what it needs to do.
Exactly.
You just wouldn't have the lights, and we wouldn't have a reversible lane feature, just a center turn lane.
That's right.
That's where you save the money, is not having to have that light system to tell you if the lane's going this way or that way.
Yeah, we're going to use Dave Callis for that.
So basically, it'd be just like we have in front of the shopping center and bank and stuff on the north side of Little Florida.
Yeah, and just, the other thing the mayor brought up, and I think it's important, is, trying to maintain that corridor lighting. I know you're trying to save money where you can, and that's something I think we all try to do. But if for some reason that gets cut, we're obviously, and I would say this with certainty, this council would put those lights back up, but that doubles our share, as gracious as the state's being in this project, telling our citizens now that we're expecting $60,000 to come from the city, and that, well, the state try to save money, and so they took lights out, so now we're gonna spend 160. You know, that's a big difference. So, you know, just try to save that if you can.
Understood.
Gene, just one thing, during the Carriage Chapel Road closure, is it possible to have a temporary turnaround, because there are going to be people that just don't pay attention to the detour, and they're going to get to the closed part of the road, and as narrow as it is, they're going to be using people's driveways to turn around, they're going to be in the ditch. Is it possible to have a temporary turnaround?
I think that's going to be difficult, just given the geography of the location, the fact that we're right next to the wetlands, and in order to do a turnaround, we would have to get acquisition and encroach on private property. You know, I think what we'll look at doing is just closing it right after the entrance to the restaurant. And they would just turn in and maybe do a K-turn in the direct entrance of the restaurant. Hopefully, once the detour gets set up, there's not going to be too many people who are caught off guard by it, but I'm sure there'll be a few. Yeah. Maybe so.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you all so much for the update. Please keep us informed. Obviously, our goal would be getting moving would be a priority. So as much as you can prioritize this through that new study. The new bridge would be an 11-foot elevation. That's important to us. I believe that was the right elevation. That's important to us to establish continuity during storm events, as we're having tonight. So that we would greatly appreciate the project keeping pace. Okay? All right. Thank y'all for coming in and keeping us informed. All right.